Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who coached Tim Allen for his role in the Santa Claus, Darren Boyce. How are you doing today?
It's a really good movie.
Shout
out to Denny's in that movie.
Coincidentally, that is where you guys did a lot of your training for that film. So that's great. We are back to our regularly scheduled programming here for a minute. It's time to start talking about the 2026 NHL entry draft and the top prospects that come along with it. We put it off long enough, all of 2.5 weeks since the 2025 draft has taken place. We have now done enough scouting to start identifying some of the top guys. And newsflash, we have found someone who we think might be the first overall pick next year. So stay tuned for that jaw dropper. We're going to start with, obviously, I'm talking about Gavin McKenna of the Medicine Hat Tigers. We're going to cover two guys today. We're going to cover Gavin McKenna and Ryan Roobroeck from your Niagara Ice Dogs. So two of the top guys coming into the year. Lot can change between July and June. As we saw last year, things were very fluid all season long. But safe to say these guys are about slam dunk first round picks at this point, and I'm sure McKenna is a lot more than that. So good place for us to start. Boyce, I'll hand it over to you to start off with. Let's start with the big fish here in the pond. We've heard about this kid since he was 14 years old. It's finally his draft year. He's been called a lot of names, generational being one of them. Although we'll get into that if that is fair praise. So I'll give the floor over to you. Let's hear your report on projected number one overall pick, Gavin McKenna.
So before I say anything, I do just want to point out any type of flaw or something that we speak of with these players, we are well aware that they can improve on these during the offseason and as next season progresses. So these are things we're going to look for them to improve on. Just an FYI for those who believe that I end up hating on the guy, which you tend to say that I do.
Boyce is back, everyone.
Yeah. So Gavin McKenna, now of Penn State University, which we'll get into that in a bit. 6 foot, 165 pounds. I will say it. He is a winger. He is not a centerman. I don't think he should be drafted as a centerman. At least right now, I don't see any evidence that that's going to be happening. Played for Medicine Hat last year. 56 games played, 129 points, 41 goals. Playoffs had 16 games played, 38 points. That's pretty big. Memorial Cup had 6 points in 4 games. This is an elite point getter. He's a 17-year-old late. He's a December 07, correct? I believe. Yes. Yeah. So, again, he's going to be an older draft this year. It is a little bit noteworthy. I'm not sure it really matters in this case, to be honest. Nonetheless, the offensive toolkit here is really, really good. I'd say he's a well above average skater in terms of his speed. He's quite fast. It's his shiftiness and kind of his edge work that I think is elite. He can slither around the ice pretty nicely. He's got good change of directions. His best tool, I think, with his skating is his change of speed. He's really good at that. He can get into the zone change speeds rather quickly to create advantages, which is not a lot of guys his age can do well. So he's good at that. I think that translates at the NHL level in terms of, being a point producer. So that's good. We're happy with that. Shooting is quite good. One thing I actually did like from him from watching him more individually, he gets to the middle of the ice a lot, especially on the power play, and he takes shots through screens and tries to play through screens and tips, which is actually, I from watching him just from afar, I hadn't actually noticed that. And that was actually quite good to see that he is getting a lot of points that way, which that also to me is translatable. In terms of the rush, his shot is very quick. He has a very quick release. He can get pucks off pretty quickly. And it's a challenge for the goaltender. So, I'm not I wouldn't be concerned that he can score a bit in the NHL. I'm not sure he's going to be a 50 goal guy in the NHL. So maybe I'm in the minority there. But he will score goals in the NHL. One thing I would like to point out as the goalie in me, he tends to shoot high a lot. There is, especially when he's off the rush, you can, again, just me. If I was playing against him, he would still score me. It wouldn't matter. But I'm assuming he would shoot high on me. It tends to happen a fair amount.
Just in case anyone thought you might stop him.
Scared of that, but nonetheless. But I mean, no, but it is. But when you're playing pro goalies, like pro goalies are going to pick up on that. So that's just, again, it's just a pattern I've picked up on him. But again, I don't think it really matters too much. I mean, the puck skills are quite solid. He can manipulate in tight spaces. As I said, with his stops and starts and his change of speed, he's really good at kind of playing into parts of the ice just by doing that. So he can get away from defensemen that way. Can hold pucks, away from guys. He can use his edges to get away from guys, on the outside. So he's good that way. Passing and playmaking too. I actually thought it was better than I even, again, it was better watching him directly than it was, during normal games. I thought he created a ton of chances. There are some turnovers, but I mean, I would say 4 out of 5 times he's creating, and then the one he's having a turnover. So it's not, he's a 17-year-old junior. That's pretty good. And again, he creates, he can create off the rush. He can create in zone. He can create off the cycle. He's good that way. Just one thing I did pick up on with him, if he is off the rush, one thing he doesn't like to do is to take the puck to the net. And I've just noticed that through a few viewings. If he's off the rush, he would rather curl back and just start the play in the zone or find a trailer. That seems to be his, what he wants to do. In which case in the NHL, I feel like teams might be able to defend that a little bit easier than if he just, he has really good speed. He has really good edges. I would like him to take the puck a little bit more to the net. I do wonder if that comes if he gains a little more strength. He's 165 pounds. I wonder if that would be something that comes where he's a little more confident in his body, a little more confident he's not going to get hammered or get hurt. And I think that could definitely make him an even more dangerous offensive player, to be honest, because then I think, again, if there's a pattern there, it makes him at least a little bit more defendable for NHL defenders. Whereas when you have 3 or 4 options, then these guys won't be able to defend him. So that would be something I would pick up on with him too. That's, again, I'm nitpicking a 17-year-old prospect here. Now, kind of some negatives. The D zone is an issue. It's not great. There's a lot less effort in that end. The other thing too is when it's not going well the other way, when he's not playing with confidence, doesn't have 2 or 3 points in the game, there's some effort problems coming back. And that's, again, 17-year-old, that's fine. It's something to note. I don't think it's a problem, but it's something to note, because then you watch him too when he is playing with confidence. You watch another view and went, oh, he's got a couple points this period. He's flying around. He is a little bit more engaged in the middle of the ice. He's a little bit more engaged in the neutral zone. So that would just be something, again, I would nitpick on. He's not physical. That's the other thing. He's not going to be, he almost turns away from contact at times. Now it's fine because he's very shifty, so he can get away from it, and I think it's okay. But it is something to note that he's probably not going to be, he is a winger. I don't think he's a centerman. So he is going to have to play along the board in the NHL. So he's going to have to improve there. He's going to have to improve his board play. He's going to have to improve his compete there. He's going to have to improve his battle there. He's going to have to beat bigger guys there. So again, that's something to look for him to improve this year. He is the best. He's the best prospect here because the upside, I think, even if I'm worried about negatives, like there's some negatives here I'm worried about. Like, what's the worst this player is going to be?
The worst?
Yeah, like a 70-point guy. Like that's the absolute worst.
Things would have to go horribly wrong for him to
Yeah,
be a
like that's what I
70-point
mean. Like
player.
the absolute like floor of this
Absolute
guy.
floor as a first line winger if everything goes terribly wrong.
So that's the floor, I think, of this guy. I think he's definitely an NHL point getter. I think this is a guy that will be very tough to defend on the power play, and he will create offense at will. So, I mean, out of any, again, I haven't watched everyone yet this year, obviously, but everyone we've seen, I mean, he's a level above everyone else. And the things that I'm worried about are things that he can definitely work on. And he's gone to a place in college, the NCAA, which will help him with that. He needs to gain strength. He needs to, work harder in the D zone. He needs to learn those details for the NHL. So I think he is actually in a good spot to learn those things and to improve. So I think it's very likely we see there is a likelihood here that we see a far improved prospect here next May, and he's already quite good. But it's also possible too that we think he's an improved prospect, but he didn't put up 1 billion points in college, and people are down on him. I think that also could be a possibility. Yet he's actually improved. So
yeah. I completely agree in terms of. I'll start with the most recent point here before I get my thoughts on his game. In terms of making the jump to the NCAA, I think for him, that's a perfect situation because a lot of the critiques that you mentioned are things that that I have written down in my notes there as well from watching his games. And look, he's proved whatever there is to prove offensively. Anyone who's ever watched hockey for the very first time knows that that's the best offensive player on the ice. You don't need to even know anything about the game to be able to pick that out. So where does he need to improve in it? And it's the things that you talked about in the NCAA. It's going to be it's a lower scoring league. It's tighter checking. It's bigger, older kids and bigger, older prospects. And again, like you said, if he is going to be winning board battles, which is what you need to do to win playoff hockey, the game is almost entirely along the boards and beneath the goal lines in the playoffs. And those are the things that he needs to improve on because those areas of his game are weak. They're weak by almost any measure, right? He doesn't have a ton of strength on the frame, fixable in time. Doesn't have a ton of grit in the defensive zone, fixable in time. And this is still head and shoulders to me the number one prospect in this draft. However, if that's the standard that we're placing on you, then that comes with an extra level of scrutiny as well, right? And this is not a guy who is as polished as someone like Sidney Crosby was at that age. He doesn't have that 200-foot dominance yet. And I say yet because the thing with the defensive game, when he's showing all the tools and all the skills that he has, it's only a matter of willing to, right? You look at a guy like, and we rag on him all the time, so it's a good guy to use as an example, but Mitch Marner is an elite penalty killer because he was willing to take the tools that he has and use them in that way. And Gavin McKenna is going to face that same thing as he comes into the league, and coaches look for him to be, if you're going to be, if everything goes wrong for him, he's the best supporting piece on a team. But with the tools that he has, a team's drafting him to be their franchise player, and a franchise player is going to have a little bit different levels expectations. So I would agree with your take on him. Almost entirely. Some things I have jotted in my notes. Doesn't love getting hit. Now I will say defensively, when he does decide to track the play aggressively defensively, he actually is good at it, and he actually has quite a good stick defensively. I did note that he was creating turnovers, positive turnovers for his team in the defensive zone. However, it was very much on his terms, and when there was an opportunity to get a quick counterattack the other way. Equally, when a situation called for really having to battle, you could see some softer pursuit there. That fourth goal in the Memorial Cup, Cowan's goal
wasn't good.
that was not, that would be a case study in puck watching 101 right there. And kind of staring at the play, having no idea that he was there. And equally, he scored 2 goals in that game. I know the final score was 4-1, and they had that missed little high stick deflection, which is, I mean, of all the calls, I mean, that's a tough one, I guess. By the letter of the law, that was the right call, but he did actually score. That high stick didn't affect the play at all. So credit for one, but did score 2. So I mean, he is doing things, obviously carrying the load offensively for his team as a draft -1, even though it is a late birthday situation where he's an 07, not an 08. That's fine, but elite. Offensively grading, elite across the board to the point that you almost don't even need to talk about it. He's just the best. He's just the best offensive player in this draft by 2,000 miles. Nobody's even close. I don't think anyone ever will be close. And if someone gets close between now and the draft, then I can't wait to see that progression throughout the season, because that'd be an exciting prospect to watch. Right now, he's miles above the next guy, in my opinion. However, there are some concerning habits, but again, we've talked about this before, where a guy who is that much better than everybody his whole way up, his whole life, just always, it's all about get this guy the puck, get him the puck, see what he can do with it, right? So we're still talking about a 17-year-old who's going to have to learn the nuances of in-zone defending, and maybe it's not even learn, maybe it's choose to apply, because I don't think anything that he, I don't think the criticisms are above him. I don't think he's a like hockey sense wise, I don't think he's defensively inept. He's just very offensive focused, and I would say that's a fairly common criticism of prospects of his clout, I suppose, at that age. Nothing uncommon here. However, this is not a perfect prospect, and certainly not polished in terms of a 200-foot game.
No. Couple things here. You're right. Like, there are instances where you're like, oh, okay, like you can actually play in the neutral zone defensively. Like, you can actually do it.
Well, he closes really quick.
Yeah, you can. Well, because he can change speeds quickly. Like he's quick side to side. Like he's quick changing on his angles, like, or on his edges. Sorry, like he has a skill set where he could be a good defender, where he actually could be a good penalty killer if he wanted to be. Like the way that he skates, that ability could be there if he wants to do it.
His edges are sick.
Yeah.
There was one play that he made in the Memorial Cup. He came over the line, and he came in like kind of right over the blue line, just inside where the faceoff dot would be, just on the other side of the blue line, and like kind of curls, stopped on one skate, sprayed the defenseman in the face with snow, and the defenseman like literally just tipped over because he got his ankle broken so bad. And I was like, I had to watch that replay 4 times just to try to even understand the mechanics of what his body was doing there, and how he opened 6-foot gap when the guy was right on him when he stepped over the blue line. Yeah. It was crazy to watch.
So this tells me a couple things, because I said this year with Zarovsky with his edges, and people were like, well, I don't know if he skates that well. I think McKenna can become a better skater. And again, he's already a good skater, but I think he can become faster because his edges are so good, and he's 165 pounds.
He's not very strong.
Well, wait till he's 190.
Oh, I know. I'm saying
he's going to be faster. He's going to be faster. He's going to have stronger edges already. And he's going to be powerful. So I like that. Like, the thing is, there is a lot of room for him to improve.
Powerful, though. You said powerful, and hold on. I want to touch on what you just said, though. You said he could become powerful. I don't know that he, like, if I think of a powerful skater, and that doesn't mean the fastest, I think of a powerful skater, I think McKinnon, and I think Crosby when he was younger. To me, that's a powerful skater, where they have that really low center of gravity and the fire hydrant, like ox ass legs, right? And they can drive right through. I don't know that I see McKenna ever becoming.
I do because his edges are so good.
Drive through the way Sid did.
It's because of his edges, though. When I see guys who have elite edges, there's so much potential in their skating there, because you gain so much power off edge work. Like, when you're skating, a lot of you look, I'm not an elite skater by any means. in general, but I mean, I worked at hockey schools when I was a teenager. You can gain so much power just by having proper edge work. You don't even have to be that strong. It's just proper edge work. And then when you gain the strength and you employ that edge work already, you're just going to be that much better of a skater. And so his edge work is so good.
Yes,
look at the power he gains off of his edges now, and he's weak.
Yeah, I just don't know that it'll translate to the same type of bullish strength that you saw from
Sitter. Power forward, but he's going to be again. I would argue right now he's not that powerful a skater. Yet the potential is there for him to be a powerful skater.
I agree, because you can see it in the way that he uses his edges and how quickly he can gain steam. So another 25 pounds on the lower body would go a long way there.
And the other point that I'm making with that is that I think he's missing a part of his offensive game right now that he doesn't technically have, which is his drive to the net and just kind of I'm not going to call it a power game, but again, if his edge work is that good and he gets a decent amount of strength, he should be able to actually kind of lean on guys with his edges. He should be able to. And
I noticed that he did have. The most concerning thing I found was it didn't look overly I don't want to say it wasn't hard for London, because it was, obviously, but it didn't look like they were really threatened 5-on-5 by the prospect of him breaking through their defensive structure in the middle of the ice in the offense.
They weren't. They forced him to the outside, and what he would do is he would curl back every time.
But he went, they forced him outside, and he let them, there was no, aside from now, the goal he scored where he completely head faked that guy into the third row of the crowd, that was pretty sick. But aside from that, there was no instance of him really breaking free in the middle. And that was something that stood out to me. Now, I know London is a stacked team, but I mean, everyone in the NHL is going to be that good or better. So that was one thing that I noticed.
But that goes to the point where I was talking about
power play wasn't power play. He got to the middle very well.
Yeah,
5-on-5, he had a tougher time.
Back a lot. And again, you can do that. That's good. You gain the zone, you have control of the puck. You're going to start zone time. All I'm saying is that he can add a little bit to his game, because that exists. He can create offense by curling back, finding trailers, or slowing down the play. He's good at that. But if he becomes more of a threat of getting to the net, or going hard to the net, or down low hard to the net, which in my opinion, it's not his strength at the moment. No. If he gets pretty good at that, this is going to be a really hard player to defend. Because right now, you just kind of explain what I was talking about. London identified that and kept him to the outside. That was what they did. They weren't really worried that he was going to cut in on, their big defenseman. He curled back all the time. They read the scouting report, and that's what NHL teams are going to do to him. So,
but even still, he still scored 2 on him,
and he still scored. So, he's still good. We're nitpicking here.
I think so. His vision as a playmaker is I don't think we gave him enough credit there. He really, really sees plays a couple steps ahead there.
But he finds guys all over the ice too. Great saucer passer too.
What a smart playmaker.
Yeah, he's really good in that end. Finds guys all over the ice, can find them from different locations. He's just not, set on one spot. He can do it off the rush. He finds the trailer a lot, does that. Which again, there's nothing wrong finding the trailer, by the way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just the I just want to see that he actually has another progression offensively to go, which is kind of scary.
He has pretty elite ability to know where all his teammates are, and for on the ice. And there was a couple instances look, when you make a lot of creative plays, there are going to be giveaways. It's like you said, but 4 to 5, but sort of thing. But geez, the amount of plays that he makes it guys don't even know are coming. He's one of those guys you kind of always got to be ready to receive a pass, because you never know when you're going to get it. But he sees, and he moves very strategically. When he's on the cycle, I find He's really going to certain spots specifically to open certain lanes, and like he'll go to a spot. I'm like, okay, why is he curling here? But then all of a sudden he's throwing a pass at a weird angle right on a guy's tape for a scoring chance. I'm like, oh well, that made sense.
Yeah. I mean, the turnovers aren't a problem though. Like
No.
mentioned he has some, but that's because he's he can make so many
Because
plays.
you're
He's gonna have turnovers.
Yeah.
It's not really an issue where last
No.
year there were some guys I mentioned that it was an issue at times. It's not an issue.
No, if I just call one issue, it'd be like defensive engagement would be how I would kind of say.
Yeah. It wasn't even that. It was just more when the games weren't going his way, which didn't happen very often. But when it wasn't going his way, you could see there was definitely a lull in his play, which like he'll have to fix that, and he will. Look, this is the number 1 overall pick. I'm quite sure. Like again, I'm pretty sure watching him, I'm not sure who better we're gonna. If we see a better guy, great. Like that's great, but I don't think we will. I did say this before though. There is a possibility. I think the expectations with him at Penn State are a little bit high here. Like I think people think he's going to have 2 points per game in college, which is really hard to do. So let's just like temper that a little bit.
Okay, I got one for you. One for you. You ready? Hobey Baker Award, Gavin McKenna versus the field.
I'll take the field, but I'm only taking the field I am going to take the field. Yeah, because the expectations are so high. Like they think their Penn State's going to win the national championship this year.
They weren't crazy far off.
They weren't, but like that's like again, that's hard to do. It's hard to be as good as they think they're going to be. It's a lot of new players, so and younger guys too.
You think really? You don't think he's going to win the Hobey Baker?
What's he have to do to win the Hobey Baker, do you think?
1.5 a game.
Like, I think it's like closer to 2.
What did Celebrini have again?
I think he had like 1.8 or something per game.
Yeah, fair enough. I
think he was a centerman. Like,
yeah, I agree. There we are looking at a winger here.
There's a lot of good players in college, man. There's a lot of good players. There's good young players now. There's good older players. There's good teams. I mean, that is kind of an award too, where the team has to be good as well, which I think they will
be good.
Yeah, well, he's playing again. There's guys in this league 22, 23 years old. So
yeah.
Like again, it's not that he can't. He certainly can win the Hobey. Sorry, I'm going to rephrase it. He could certainly win the Hobey Baker. He probably should be the favorite. I'll take the field though because I'm just doing my gambling odds here. I will take the field.
Chicken shit. I'll take McKenna. I like it.
Anyway,
okay. Let us know what you think. That's
let us know what you think. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Is this? I think everyone agrees that this is the number 1 prospect. We probably won't have to debate that a whole lot. But what does get interesting is the rest of the field in the 2026 draft. It's been dubbed very early on as a very skilled, very deep draft. We'll see how that goes. Not saying it's not saying it is, just we haven't seen enough yet to decide that. But what I can say, there's been a lot of talented players that I've watched already. So it's shaping up to be a pretty exciting year. And one guy that is very exciting, I think, is Ryan Roobroeck from the Niagara Ice Dogs. Now, this guy is another late birthday, and you see this fairly commonly. This type of in July, August, a lot of the more highly touted guys are late birthdays, just because they've had 2 years in junior or wherever they're playing, been around a year longer than the 08, so you know them a little better. But I think this is one guy who's going to maintain the status that he has early on, which is, I mean, he's a projected top 5 pick by most outlets as of right now, and I have zero disagreements with that. 87 points in 64 games, and over like the older player in the draft. Late birthday talk. He was September 25th birthday, 10 days earlier he'd have been in the 2025 draft. But even then, I still think we'd be looking at a top 10 pick even in this past draft, and he would have been the youngest guy. So I'm not going to hold his age against him too much, although it is noteworthy. And equal to that, we do still need to see some improvement over last year's numbers, or that could maybe be what makes the stock stagnate if you don't see him take a jump. But what are you laughing at me for? Giving me a hard time already. First prospect of the year, eh, that we're doing. Boyce is going to tell you otherwise, but I actually think his skating is pretty good for his size, and I'm already getting laughed at here because I know the debate's coming. 6'4" kid who's 17 years old. When he gets ahead of steam, he is tough to stop. Now, is he going to be a burner? No, he's probably not going to be a burner where he's beating NHL defensemen wide on a regular basis. But I think he can be a guy that you say he's a good skater for his size, and I like him skating better actually with the puck than without, which gives me hope that he can find another notch to it as he gets older and stronger. When you're skating with the puck, you're a little lower to the ice. You have more natural knee bend that way, so you do generate more speed and power from your stride. And if guys have a bit of a, I don't want to say a lazy stride, but maybe more upright, or if they get tired later in their shifts and they break their stride mechanics break down, that's when you can see them looking a little more slow. But if they're looking a little bit faster with the puck, that can kind of be why you're just more naturally low to the ice and generating more power. So I think that with a little focus on that, he can find another step. Now, in terms of the first few strides, the quickness, that is something that will kind of need to improve. It is something that I think right now would be a bit of an area of improvement for him. When he's able to kind of take a few steps, kind of turning up the ice, he's fine in that sense. But if he's kind of caught from a standstill, that's when he can kind of get a step or two behind the play. And obviously in the NHL is going to be a lot of stop and start, a lot more than juniors. So that is something to be wary of. Equally, he's a 6'4", 17-year-old, and the big guy's quickness, just look, there's not too many big guys that don't have this issue at this age. So while he might never have the edges and quickness of Gavin McKenna, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily concerned about it per se in terms of fatal flaw territory. Supreme offensive talent, not in the sense of McKenna, but in terms of playing a big man skill game. This is kind of exactly what you want to draw it up when you're building that type of player. He played left wing all last year. I think before that he's played a little bit of center and a little bit of wing. I would be of the opinion that he should get a very long look at center this year, even though he might be more naturally suited as a winger. The tools and the skill set, to me, I would like to have that size and talent down the middle of my ice if there's a way to make it so. And if not, you're looking at probably an elite power winger if he round out certain things that we'll get to in a minute. But offensively, he's an excellent shooter, very very heavy shot with a quick release. Really good big man hands. Again, some of these things are going to be relative to his size. At 6'4", it is going to be a little bit harder, so you are a little bit more impressed by things he can do. So again, for a guy with this kind of size and stature, really good hands, really good ability to kind of fish pucks out of the corners and out of skates. Good hand eye. So you like to see that type of stuff. I think he's an excellent playmaker. I think he sees the ice very, very well. His hockey sense offensively in terms of creativity and being able to find guys and kind of make little plays kind of happen out of nothing, like in situations where you don't really think there's much going on. He finds a way to turn it into a scoring chance, which is very promising. And a lot of that type of stuff comes around the net, just below the goal line or in the crease. So that makes me very, very happy to see as well, because if there's one thing I like, it's a guy that can play in the crease and play in the dirty areas and have offensive success playing that way, because as we said 1,000 times last year, and we'll say 1,000 more. That's how you win in the playoffs. So those type of things will really, really translate well, in my opinion. A little bit Martone-ish in the competitiveness stance, where it can be selective at times. There are shifts where I have seen him break up a play in his own end, make a nice give and go up the ice, get a nice clean entry, make a great play, create a scoring chance, run over the defender who collects the rebound, create another scoring chance. And then I've seen shifts where it's 3 or 4 really wide circles and back to the bench. So consistency to me is an issue. I don't want to call it necessarily an effort issue, because you do see the good shifts there. And when he is engaged, he can be a wrecking ball. And one of those unicorn type power forwards. But again, there are times where you're like, okay, is this even the same guy on the shift? And he doesn't look engaged at all, nearly as much. Anyways, defensively, whatever, he's fine. He's good at turning the puck over when he feels like it. He's actually a really good penalty killer, which is kind of surprising because he doesn't necessarily have a ton of quickness to get laterally on the PK. But again, it's a high hockey sense player, so he knows how to put himself in the right spot. So the coach trusts him on the PK. To me, that says something about there being a little bit of upside as a 200-foot player, because he has put in those situations. But 5-on-5 defensively, the effort level can be kind of hit and miss there. Again, there's times where I've seen him run a guy through the boards and turn the puck back up the other way, and other times where he's kind of gliding in with a half-assed one-handed stick check, and I don't know. He's just not engaged all the time, and I think that'd be my biggest criticism from him. I'd like to see him hit more. He doesn't not hit, he does throw hits, but I'd like to see him do it more. And again, when he's engaged, he is ferocious out there at times and can do damage with his big frame. But there's other times where he'll go into the corner and he'll kind of just be looking to break down the defender, kind of squaring up to him as a skater and not really going to play the body in situations where you could kind of make guys remember you in that situation a little bit more, right? So all that to say, this guy's in my top 3 right now, maybe second overall. Again, I might be the minority here. I do think this is someone who should get a look at center this year in Niagara. I don't know that he will, because from all accounts, from what I could find, this is a winger, a natural winger kind of, more than anything. But I do think with the high-end hockey sense and playmaking ability, and obviously with the size, that you do want those traits down the middle. I know he's a very good shooter of the puck, and not necessarily ton of comparables in terms of a pure shoot for a center, but the playmaking so good as well that I think he could be a kind of give it to you any way you want it kind of player. But that said, I think at worst you're looking at a top end winger here, and I'd be hard pressed to see something would have to go tragically wrong for him to fall out of the top 10.
Okay, I think top 3 is Rich if he's a winger. If he's a centerman, then yes. So I think a lot of his draft stock in terms of the top end of the draft has to do with if he plays center this year, which they should give him a shot at doing. I think it's like for his development, I think it's something that he should want to do, and they should give him a shot at.
Yeah.
I'm not, to me right now, I haven't seen the evidence that he is a centerman or has that ability yet. But that is a big thing that we could possibly see this year that could really change his draft stock if he is an effective centerman. So I think that's one thing.
Leo Carlson was winger heading into his draft year too.
Yep. No, that's what I mean. So I think that's something you should be looking for this year with him. If he's playing center, that's really like he's up in the top 3 then. I think I think he is a top 3, because look at what happened this year with the big centerman, even just a centerman in general in the draft.
Right. So I think if he's a centerman, he's number 2.
Yeah, it's very possible. Yes. Now, if he's a winger, that changes things. You compare it to Martone, there are.
No, I wouldn't say. No, I don't want to say that. Like, I don't want to say that's my comparable form.
No,
I just meant in the sense that maybe like there are some similarities, but I was talking about in the kind of selectively competitive sense where sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't.
So he's a good playmaker like Martone. He can create a lot in the offensive zone very quickly, and he creates a lot with his reach. So he can create a lot of advantages just because he has so much reach.
Better numbers than Martone in his D-1 year.
And he utilizes it well. He's good at that, and he doesn't look like he's doing a lot. That's the thing with him. It doesn't really look like he's doing a lot, or like there's a high effort play. Puck's on his stick and off his stick a lot. It's not there long, even though it looks like he didn't do anything. And he makes good plays, so he is a good playmaker. Like his best skill set is as a playmaker, which
41 goals last year, right, Darren?
I think he's a better playmaker.
I'm not disagreeing, but I'm just saying, what kind, like, how good are we talking if he scored 41 in his D-1 year as a winger, and he's a better playmaker?
I'm not saying he's a bad scorer, but I would rather him. Say we're doing a power play, I would rather him have the puck making decisions with it. That would be my choice instead of utilizing him as a net front guy, which they kind of were at the U18s,
But he'll do both. In Niagara, he'll do both. I've seen instances of
both. I think I like it with the puck.
From the sideboards. He'll run the power play from the sideboards, and then when it swings to the other side, he shifts in front of the net, and he creates a lot from there too.
Yeah, he can. I think he's really good there, especially when you have a big guy who can create. It's such an advantage because he doesn't have to do much to create an advantage just because he's so big and just has some time. So I agree with you. I don't think his straight line speed when he gets going is bad. It's okay. The problem with him is that his stops and starts are quite slow and he's unbalanced. Like he is off balance a lot, which is it's improvable.
That's strength. A lot of it.
It's improvable. He's got to work on his edge work though. Again, stops and starts aren't great. Change of direction's not great. When he does get kind of, I almost want to say stuck at times. It's hard for him to win short races. Because when he has to change directions, he loses the race most of the time. That's what concerns me. And so that needs to be again. So that's what I'm looking for this year.
So with that though, if you're willing, if you're going to lose the race, if you're willing to pound the guy through the boards regularly, you're going to start winning some of those races.
But he's late getting there to hit the guy.
Sometimes
that's the other problem. Sometimes. So I think too, if
skating's more an issue for him as a defender than it is because with the puck, he gets up to speed better, and when you have the puck, I mean, he can control the pace of it a little bit more, and he's so good at protecting it with his body that even if guys catch him really well, even if guys catch him, he's not giving it up.
So but he knows how to lean on guys.
Like when you're trying to get the puck back, that's where the skating hurts.
He knows how to lean on guys with the puck, and he's not balanced yet, so that's good. I don't think it's an effort or wanting to not hit guys problem. I think he just does hit guys. He doesn't get to the location in time to hit the guy. That's his issue right now. So he needs to, if he can improve, those quick burst those quick burst types on his skating, that could really improve him. Like that, he could become he can become far more imposing because he'll be more physical. He's going to win more battles that way. And because his stick's so long, if he gains like half a step, he's going to win these battles to begin with. If he gains like 3/4 of a step, he's going to run these guys into the boards. And then now this is like, he's better than him, but now he's Milan Lucic. Like now he's hammering.
Now he's Brady Tkachuk.
Well, sure, but now he's hammering guys. So I don't think the physicality to me isn't I don't see him not wanting to hit guys. Like he hits guys. He's just late to getting there. So I don't actually see that as a flaw. It's the skating that I need to see improve. And the other part is too, he struggles to beat OHL defenders with his speed, even if he chips it in or if he's trying to on the rush. Like he does struggle to give guys problems that way. So again, if he gains an extra step with his hands, he should get like that should improve.
Yeah, he might not really ever be a chip and chase kind of guy.
Well, it is something we need to see improvement on.
Yeah, but his hands and his puck protection and his ability to buy time on entries is so good that he finds other ways. Now, that said, if you have more speed, you become more of a threat on the rush. I do understand that but I don't know that this is a guy that we're going to see a ton of highlights of him driving wide and beating a guy with speed.
The other thing is he doesn't really utilize his hands off the rush as much as he does when he's kind of set up in the zone. Like he's far better with his hands when it's kind of slowed down. Whereas if you're playing at speed, his hands aren't as great. Like they're just
he just gets a lot simpler with him.
Yeah. So there's that. In terms of the penalty kill stuff, his issue is the same thing. It's the stops and starting. If he gains some burst on his skating, he has such a big reach and he's such a big guy that he could be a decent penalty killer because he takes up so much room.
Well, the fact that he's being asked to be a penalty killer as a D-1 guy who's not the greatest skater, I think that speaks to the rest of his game. And I think that speaks more than anything to his hockey sense, because the coach is like, okay, you might not be the quickest, but you know how to go out there and be in the right spots. And
he's not going to be a pressure penalty killer, right? Like he's going to be more of a positionally guy that takes up passing lanes and shooting lanes. Like that's what he's going to do. And if again,
but most D-1 wingers are not getting PK time. So I think it's a good thing that he's getting it at all.
But again, I think all of this is predicated on where the skating improvement is. Because if he improves skating wise, this improves everything else. The other thing that's really good with him that actually goes undervalued, and you did talk about, scored 41 goals this year. He has really good big man hands in front of the net, around the net, scoring wise. Like, I mean, like he can roof pucks, like he creates himself space around there. I'm not talking about tips and stuff. I'm talking about more like he can finish around the net.
Yeah.
Like that's really good. Now he can obviously do tips and tap-ins and stuff like that, but it's just, again, he's around the net, like he can finish.
He's good at pulling pucks out of traffic and putting them home.
He can finish them himself. So
I saw one really good play in one of the games I was watching where now it was on the power play, but still he was kind of posted at the top of the crease and the D had position on him between him and the goalie kind of thing. And then the play kind of came to the post, the near side post where he was, and he kind of leaned on the D backwards and then did a quick spin off, and it was stick on the ice ready for a tap. And now all of a sudden the D's frozen, trying to choose between the puck carrier and the guy he was just covering. Didn't lead to a goal, but it was a really high end scoring chance, and it kind of just froze both the D and the goalie there. Really, really heads up play. He's really good in that area. Now, I'm not sure if he's ever going to really beat goalies from distance in the NHL, and I think it's because I think his wrist shot windup's quite long. Like, I think it's slow. So I think for a lot of pro goalies, they'll be able to, like, I don't know if he's going to be, again, I think Gavin McKenna can beat guys from distance a bit more, like if we're just doing that. So I think a lot of his goals are going to be kind of inside the hash marks. However, he's going to finish inside the hash marks. That's where goals are scored. They are is exactly where they're scored. So it's fine. I'm just saying that. Like, I don't think this is a guy who's going to be ripping home pucks from the other dot on the power play. Like, he's going to be in tight, like finishing. Like, that's what he's going to do, or he's going to be creating from there. But this is a good player. Like, we're talking about a guy who has another year of development here. He's big. He could potentially play center, which is the difference between him and Martone, is that he could play center. Martone has no potential to play center. So I will say this to everyone listening. If he plays center this year, he will be a top 5 pick, probably a top 3 pick. If he plays center, he's going to be second overall. He might, maybe. At 6'4", top three. If he goes 50 goals, 100 points as a 6'4" centerman in the OHL, he's going top 2. There's a right-hand D playing college in a pretty good situation right now. Yeah, that's fine, but you're not. Well, that's what I'm just saying. That would be the guy that would be. If you can get a franchise center, if that's what you think you're getting, it's top 2. If you get a right-hand D that's 6'4" and can skate, like that's what I mean. Like, there's a debate there. He's a top 3 pick. Like, there would be a debate there. That's all. Yeah, that's fair. So that's our first look at Ryan Roobroeck and Gavin McKenna, I suppose. Boyce, anything you'd like to add on either of those guys before we wrap it up?
I'm just, I just want to touch on McKenna. I just kind of hope the James Hagens thing doesn't happen to him.
Darren,
I'm just a little bit worried about it. Maybe happens where he only gets like 1.2 points per game, and people are like, wow, like he's not the, like, again, this, I just want to touch and make sure this isn't the same guy. Okay.
You think it's the college drop is a real thing?
He's not going to get 100. Look, if he's playing in the dub this year, how many points is he getting? 135.
130?
Like, he's the first overall pick. It doesn't matter.
He's going to be anyways.
I think so too. But listen, whatever. I'm not going to say he's the first overall pick. I just don't want it to happen where it's like he only has a point per game and people are like, wow, he's had a really bad year. And again, I know I was hard on Hagens, but like he dropped too far.
He did drop too far.
So like, we have to remember that he's playing older guys.
We do.
He's challenged himself here.
Interesting, because it's interesting now that there's going to be a lot more draft eligibles coming out of the NCAA.
Yeah.
So it's going to give a little bit of a more even playing field, I think, in that sense, because there's going to be so many of them that are facing harder competition and lower offensive numbers than would have been quote unquote expected. I'm very curious. I think that's going to be one big storyline this year in the hockey draft world sort of thing, that how do all these guys make a move to the NCAA? Because there's a handful of them, and a handful of top guys too, who are switching over.
Can I say something?
I'm interested to see how it affects evaluations.
It will. I am also going to say one thing. Some of these guys will be leaving their schools at Christmas
to go back to junior
or somewhere else.
Really?
I think so. Because they're not all, it's not all these guys are going to play really well. Some of them won't. I'm not saying, and this isn't Gavin McKenna, by the way. Like, Gavin McKenna will be an impact player in the NCAA. That's not what I mean. But some of these guys will struggle a little bit, which is possible, right? Like, yes. They're not going to get the ice time they got in the CHL. They're not going to get the power play time they got in the CHL. In which case, if it's Christmas time and they're struggling along under a point per game, some of these guys, the NHL team's going to want them there, especially guys that are, that have been drafted. Are they going to want them there?
We shall see.
I don't know.
I am curious to see how it all shakes out, because it is a bit of a trial and error thing, because this hasn't been an option.
Well, they don't play a lot of games, Rocco. Like, that's the other thing. And one thing that is to note is that college guys have been coming back to the CHL for a long time. That's been happening after Christmas, where guys would come back. That has always happened. It just didn't happen all the time, but it did happen. At least a couple guys each year that happened with. Like Charlie Coyle's a good example. Like, that happened with him. He just left and went to St. John the one year. Like, there's lots of guys that that has happened with. That would be the, and again, these guys can also go to other NCAA schools too. Like, they could end up leaving. The next year.
I mean, I'm not familiar enough with the transfer rules there. If they have to,
they can all leave. They can leave after a year if they want. So, anyway, just something to look at. I'm interested to see if any of these guys end up moving at the Christmas time, or the teams wanting to move, or they don't like their situation, don't like having to go to school all the time, which is also a possibility. So, something to look at.
Completely agree. Very interested to see how it plays out. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. We're excited to officially kick off scouting season for us anyways. For the 2026 draft, these are two of the guys that we believe will be some of the top players picked, and we will be back sooner than later with more. Boyce, thanks as always. Talk to you soon.
Have a good one.